So this is Lulea. It's 4 meters by 3 meters, which gives an internal dimension of about 3.7 by 2.7. It's on a 6-inch thick concrete base, although a minimum of 4 inches is suggested. It's got reinforced mesh across all of it, and extra around the edges where the weight is. Under the base and on top is damp course membrane. It's got a separate strip under the foundation beam to form a seal. The foundation beam overlaps the base to get runoff, and then that at the sides and the back then goes onto gravel. The construction was very easy, and I did it by myself for over a couple of days with plenty of breaks, as I'm nearly 70. There was no rush, but 2 people would have done it in less than half the time, as a lot of time was wasted going up and down a ladder. The walls go up very rapidly, but you do need a good rubber hammer to get them in place. These lug joints are double tongue and groove, as you can see. Maybe over sort of 4.3 meters, it's sometimes a bit difficult, particularly if the logs are slightly bowed. You do need to hit them hard to get that good joint, but they are soon compacted by the weight of the logs above them. The pack came on a pallet about 4.6 meters by a meter, so you need plenty of room for the forklift to get in. It then took me about an hour and a half to unpack and sort. Take particular care to the ends of the roofing section, that small piece up there in particular on the end of that beam. They do break off very easily if not, as I discovered. This was no problem, and it was repaired with glue and clamps and held in place by the surrounding logs anyway. The shingle roof takes a bit of time and care. Stack some on the roof while you're working. Make sure you lay them over the ridge, otherwise the vibration of hammering can make them slide off. We've got prevailing winds from the southwest, so the ridge tiles are overlapped in the direction so they get the least wind and rain penetration. Windows go in when the walls are about halfway up, and the door frame when the walls are reaching lintel level. They are floating to allow for log expansion, so don't fix them. They came with Georgian cross beams, but they were easily removed to give a more contemporary effect. The inside of the foundation beam requires cutting to allow the inner part of the door frame to fit in, just here. This requires a horizontal cut of about 1.5 meters across the width of the 2 doors. Easier done at the beginning before fitting, if you can work out exactly where the frame will be. Otherwise you've got this horizontal cut where your knuckles are very close to the ground. Putting the roof on needs constant checking at least every metre to be sure they're going on square. I marked along the purlins about every metre and then checked when I was a couple of boards away from the mark and made any adjustments that were necessary. Otherwise, over a 4 metre length, it's very easy to be a couple of centimetres off square at the end. The floor is floating, so it isn't fixed to the walls. I messed up the first few boards as I hadn't trimmed the damp course membrane right back and hadn't realised my spacing pieces were up against the inside of the foundation beam and not the walls, so ended up with too big an expansion gap. I then had to rejig the skirting to make up for it. The wood from the pallet is very useful for racking and shelves, but be sure to allow room for log expansion by putting slots in for the fixings. The vents have been fitted top and bottom as suggested. Be sure to fit some netting under the cover on the outside to keep out the insects.